To the bride and groom, marriage is a loving contract between two people who want to spend the rest of their lives together. In the eyes of the law, marriage is also a contract between two people, not about love, but about a variety of financial rights and obligations. Attorney Sonia Kaufman joins us now to answer your questions, putting family first here on Live at 5. And we're going to talk, I know, about prenuptial agreements, and a lot of people hate to even bring that subject up, you know, when you're getting married. But who needs a prenuptial agreement, and, you know, what can they accomplish with that?
In general, anybody that has separate property would be well served to get a prenuptial agreement signed before the wedding. And what that can do for them, it defines the separate property that each party brings into the marriage, and it defines the separate liabilities. And that can save a whole lot of headache and expense down the road if, in the event of divorce or death, those things can be spelled out in advance.
So if you have separate property or assets, that's something you need to talk about.
I think so, but you're right, it can be a very touchy subject
just like,
right
what,
before
you
the
don't
wedding.
think we're going to stay together?
Exactly.
You need a prenuptial? Well, who pays for the agreement?
I've had it done both ways. Sometimes the parties split the cost, but generally the party with the money is the one who would pay for the agreement and also pay for an attorney to represent the non-moneyed spouse. So you need representation on both sides of that agreement.
Well, what is a separate asset is one phrase, and what is a marital asset? How do you determine that?
A separate property asset is something that somebody brings into the marriage that they have before they get married, or something that a party acquires by gift or through inheritance. So it's a good idea to keep those defined, because separate property is something that's not divisible in divorce. Community property is something acquired during the marriage, and that's something that the court would divide in the event of divorce.
And what can be agreed to in a prenup? What kinds of things are in there?
Lots of things, but generally people want to talk about what happens to their separate property. If it goes up in value, does the community share in that increase? Or what happens to income from the separate property? Generally, without a prenup, that income would be community income, money that's earned off the separate property. But that's often what people want to change with the prenuptial agreement, is to keep the income from separate. And there are other issues that people want to talk about, such as whether there's going to be any community income created at all. Generally, the earnings of a party during the marriage are community, but with the prenup, people can alter that and say that each party's earnings become their separate property.
I see.
So,
lots to discuss, and hopefully it's something that doesn't come to pass. But in cases that it does, I'm sure you've seen where it's made a tremendous difference.
it saves a lot of time and money and headache. It really does in the end.
Well, Sonia, always nice to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming in. We appreciate it. And if you have a question about family law, let Attorney Sonia Kaufman answer your questions. You can fax us here at 892-7305, or you can always email us at LAF, that stands for Live at 5, @KFDM.com.